specific 7 myths.
Perfect. Sounds good. Takes a minute to kick on LinkedIn anyway. So hopefully right about now, we're going live on LinkedIn. Usually takes about 10 seconds. So welcome everybody back to another live episode. It's been a minute since I've done a live, so really excited to be back. And today's guest is Dr. Deepak Bhootra. He is fellow B2B guy in the sales space, had a ton of experience in B2B sales, and he's going to be talking about some sales sorcery, because many of us that have done any kind of sales, we kind of end up getting put into the sales guy bucket, right? And people don't like to be sold to. They don't like the salesy person. So we're going to dive into that a little bit, and hopefully by the end of today, in fact, I'm sure that by the end of this conversation, you're going to have a better idea of how to not come across quite so salesy. So first off, Dr. Deepak, I'd love for you to break down for us, why do you believe that so many people kind of naturally default to being kind of salesy when they start selling?
So thanks for the introduction, Joseph, and for having me here. If anyone knows one thing is they always say, never give Deepak a microphone and unlimited time. You will die waiting for him to get off the stage. I love talking about selling. I love this function. I've been at it for 30 years, as you said, Joseph. And I always love it. Have you ever had a parent saying to a child in the cradle that you're going to grow up to be a salesperson? I mean, I come from Indian heritage. We typically get, oh, he'll grow up to be a doctor. He'll grow up to be an engineer, right? That's the usual stuff. So I've always asked myself, because a lot of people don't look at that profession as noble. They just don't. Now take that mindset that you have in your mind, and now you're a small business owner, you're a salesperson, and you're asking the question, why do they default to salesy approach? They default to salesy approach because unless you've been trained in selling and understand it, all you've seen is bad role models. Wolf of Wall Street, right? You've seen a car salesman walking up chewing and telling you why you got to buy this puppy, right? You walk into a furniture store and they're going to try to force you to constantly selling to you. That's what happens. Now, as a small business owner, you think you've been selling all your life. You've actually not been selling. Only when you really are selling an offer, you're taking something to market, then the fun starts. So that's why I'm always telling people that the only scripts you've seen are all the wrong ones that teach you how to perform instead of how to connect. I am never closing. I'm also never selling. I know it sounds funny. That's why there's this white paper or playbook I actually wrote for small sales owners. And someone asked me, why call it becoming sales? I said, because it's a persona. You don't do sales, you become sales. And think of this as an eclectic Eastern philosophy type of thing. But you have to change the way you think. And that's why my recommendation to people is that you default because you have the wrong benchmarks in your mind. Figure out what is selling, figure out what's selling to you, tie it back to your offer, and talk from the heart. You're not selling anymore. You're actually convincing. You're actually answering people's innate desire to do something better. There's a pain they have, help them solve that pain. I really hope that wasn't too long-winded for you, Joseph.
Yeah,
that's how great. I look at salesy.
Yeah, I mean, and it comes back down also to just people don't like to be sold, but they like to buy. Like nobody wants to feel like, oh, I just got sold, right? But everybody loves buying stuff. I mean, who doesn't love to buy something? And especially if it's something that you believe is going to help you solve your problem. And so if you're selling something, if you're selling used cars that are junk and they're broken, and then you're convincing somebody to buy something they shouldn't, well, yeah, you're going to have to be salesy to make that happen because your product is no good.
Absolutely.
But absolutely. That has legitimate value, then it makes it so much easier to not have to try to convince somebody. You're just literally solving their problem. You're answering their questions, and you're able to do that. So you actually were giving me a clarification just as we went as it was going live. So we were talking about the 7 myths, but I'll let you dive into that. You can paint a picture for what they are, but like 7 myths around selling.
So I do a lot of work with small business owners, and I just realized that every time I talk to them, I've got at least 100 definitions from 100 small business owners. None of them actually believe they sell. They all believe they run a business, which is fundamentally, I would say, the first myth that I would love to talk about, but it's actually not one of the myths. It's just a misunderstanding. The myths are very simple, Joseph. If my offer is good enough, it should sell itself. That's not how it works, actually. You're hoping that people will get it. You just become invisible. You have got great work. You still need to give it a voice. People will not buy through osmosis or you thinking about it. You got to sell it. Nothing sells by itself. Even God doesn't get sold by itself. Someone has to represent him and his interest in church, right? Something like that. Number two, I have to be extroverted or charismatic to succeed. Deepak, I'm watching you. You're so, you nothing scares you. You're so confident. I'm like, stop. The first 4 years of my life, I had to go to doctors because my parents didn't understand why I couldn't speak. Everyone is got some latent defect in them, right? Some of us are not outgoing, but I just my dad used to tell me, people think that sales is performance, it's a theater. Yes, there's a way to make it joyful. I get it, but it's not. It's about quiet confidence. You believe in a product that you have. It's not about your, how do you say this, your energy in the wrong way. It's actually about your energy and belief in your product. You need to build trust. And how do you build trust? Trust me, trust comes from something very deep. Trust is earned. You can't just walk up and command trust because you're very confident or because you have that chest thumping bro attitude. So that's just one of those things. Number three, I have to talk people into buying. You're not talking. It's not about pressure. You're actually talking to get permission and to show them how they can get a fit to solve a pain for them. Therefore, you have to talk. Number four, the best one I always get is I need to have a big following before I can sell. This is typically of people trying to sell on LinkedIn, right? And Joseph, this is what I call the audience fallacy. You don't need more followers. You just need more alignment. And that alignment is one-on-one. Believe it or not, it's one-on-one. If you're in B2B selling, it's one-on-one. Selling feels pushy, gross, or unethical. Yes, because it's got the sleaze stigma, as I call it, Joseph, right? If you're going to watch The Wolf of Wall Street, then of course, that's how you do cold calling, right? You got him. You got him. What is that? What is that? Right? I mean, hello. That's the type of stuff, right? So we're not hustling. Just get rid of that word there, right? Doing stuff like that, everyone's not cut out for it. Then comes the best one. I need to make sure my offer is 100%. I need to fix everything before I can start selling. I just wish I could tell people what they're doing wrong. I have spent months, Joseph, sharpening my offer only to find out that people loved it when it was rough because I was making it conform to their need. The more you think about an offer, the more you're going to make it solidified. And sometimes you need that fluidity to connect with people. Think about it, right? And if you
Yep.
keep waiting, all you're doing is actually, as a small business owner, you're going to run out of money soon, mate. Joseph, I consult to small business owners. Of the 8 people that I've done business this year until 2025, 4 have gone back to getting a job or closed shop because they ran out of money. And the best way to run out of money is because you are optimizing for infinite delight, and problem is you don't have infinite cash flow to sustain you. And this is a
Yep.
shout out to every small business owner listening. Big warning. This is why these myths, you need to shatter them fast. Because if you don't sell, your company is going to get sold. I know it sounds really crazy to say it that way, but the last myth is when people say no, it means I failed. This to me is the most important.
Mhm.
People have an identity crisis in this world, Joseph. They take
Yep.
everything personally. I mean, I send someone an email trying to convince them how to buy from me, they shout at me. The same email will get 10 different responses. I get that. But do I go back and try to cry about it or change my email? No. Because I'm looking for that one, two people out of 100 who will buy from me. The other 98 you will have to tolerate. That's just how life is. So the rejection reflex that you get, well, actually, my wife calls it, when I use the word reflex, she said, no, I think you're trying to say reflux. Think about it. Every time someone says no, you want to vomit, right?
Yeah.
That's human. That's being human. In fact, anyone who tells me that they don't feel bad about being told no is being just a narcissist. It's just playing games. So you're gathering data. Every time you get a no, you're actually gathering data, Joseph. That's how I define it. You're not losing dignity. You're allowing yourself to lose dignity by the way you think. And that, Joseph, is a long-winded way of giving you the 7 myths that I preach to people and try to convince them. They're not complicated. They're not complicated, and it's very simple. Even I've got self-reflection questions and a framework behind each of these to actually help a small business owner think about it, to make sure that they're getting through this, what I call fuzzy layout, and getting sharp at what they're supposed to do. It's all in the mind, as someone once said, and I agree with
Yeah.
that.
No,
Back to
and
you, sir.
if I was to summarize some of what you were saying, just in my experience, first of all, those are those are great, and I'm excited that we're talking because I've run into a lot of those myself over the years. I've tried to start multiple businesses at different times, some successfully,
Hmm.
some not so successfully, and I've
Yes.
run into just about every single thing you've said, and I've learned most of them the hard way. So an example of that is I had a product that I was building. It was like a marketing framework to help people understand their business and their
Yes.
messaging and their pain point. What's the pain you're solving in the market, and went through all the different pieces. Uh, the process itself is actually really good, but I did exactly what you just said. I went and I built something that was really amazing,
Yeah.
and then went and tried to sell it. And nobody wanted to buy it in the way that I had built it. And I spent months doing that and ultimately had to go get a job because I built something that was so good, but not in the way that people of the market would actually buy it from me. And it was a hard lesson to learn.
Joseph, you know what you just said? I think we should dig into that for just 1 minute, if you don't mind. It is a very powerful message there. People listen to you and they actually listen to the fact that you're admitting to something. You're not admitting to something. You are saying, I learned something. And that learning is very important for most entrepreneurs out there. There's something that I bumped into, which I really want to quickly share with you. Gamma is a product that does, it's an AI-based presentation tool, Gamma.app. I use it a lot. I'm a ambassador. And one of the things that I heard on one of the talks was one of the co-founders was mentioning that when they were forming this company, they spent 80% of the time listening to customers to know what to give to customers, right? But he says then we got to a point where we stopped listening to customers because we had to survive. Keep building features is not what you're going to do. You got to now take what you have and just get out there and get the cash flow to then do. Today, they spend maybe 20% of the time talking to customers, 80% is running an operation. And that is the switch that you need to be smart enough to figure out at what point to do. And those who don't figure that switch are typically the ones that are going to run out of capital, money, and runway. And it's just one of those things. But this is a great conversation on entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and I have another. We have a little bit more to cover, but another thing that just I say it in a slightly different way, but we're saying almost the same thing. So the way that I talk about some of those myths is, look, the best products don't win, the best services don't win. If you build it, they'll come. It's totally not true. That is a myth. It's the people who are able to communicate an idea clearly, the people who have the right relationships, and their idea gets brought into the right room of people who can actually buy it or give investment or whatever. Their subpar, okay, not developed product is going to beat the one that's perfect that nobody's ever heard of, right? And so,
Boom.
The way that I encourage people to do this if they're going to start is, first of all, don't quit your day job if you don't have to. Like if you have to, or you get laid off and you want to start your business, it's tough. But if you have to, but if you don't have to, start it on the side and do this. Talk to the people who you actually think will buy from you, and then follow this framework, which I think lines right up with your 7 myths.
Yes.
It's listen before you sell, and listen for the pain points in the market that people are actually talking about, what keeps them up at night. And then you sell before you build. And so you go to that person, you go, hey, I'm actually working on something to solve that exact problem. Is it worth having a conversation about how I can help you solve that?
Absolutely.
Then you kind of create a rough napkin sketch of what you're going to do, and you sell it for whatever price they're going to buy it, right? So you listen before you sell. You sell before you build. So now I've sold it. Now I go build what I'm already making money to do. And then it gets into the last thing you said there is you build before you scale. And so now you sell it a bunch of times, you build it, you iterate on it. And then once you've really proven, hey, there's a good amount of people who are going to buy it, then you actually scale. And to your point, you don't keep iterating. You scale what works across a bunch of people.
And that's when the bucks come in. That's when the truth.
I love that.
And that inflection point, unfortunately, maybe 10% of the guys will get to, because the rest will fall victim to a lot of these myths, a lot of these mistakes and stuff like that. And this is such an intense topic, right? And as an entrepreneur, I've been at this game for 9 months, Joseph, right? And someone asked me, what's the single biggest message you'd give to a new entrepreneur coming on board? My answer would be as follows. If you think that you have money that will allow you to run the business for 12 months, work on 6. Because you're going to find out that there's a different intense pressure. You cannot sell or you cannot work if you think that this is the last 3 months of your runway. So you ought to be at your peak in month 6 itself. Because if you're not, then you're going to be in deep trouble. So it's mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's actually interesting, Dave. I don't know if you're familiar with Dave Ramsey, but something he talks about with businesses is there's 3 rules with every business, no matter what. It's going to cost you twice as much as you think it's going to cost. It's going to take you twice as long. And you're not the exception. So basically those 2 first rules are going to apply to you. Basically,
whether you like it or not. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but that's what humans do, right, Joseph? We are very quick to say, the reason why I support this policy is because how many people does it impact? But when it impacts them, then they will quickly go and vote for that policy or for that politician, right? To make sure that it doesn't happen or this stuff. We are always focused upon, I'm sure that I won't get cancer. I'm sure that I'm better than other entrepreneurs and so on and so on. Because that's what we've been fed, right? We've been told that hard effort and great work and opportunity is going to get you out there. But at the end of the day, understanding that there is something called gravity makes you do things the right way also. It's not left to chance. It's left to your ability. Even God cannot make you rich if you don't buy the lotto ticket, right? So you got to buy
Yeah.
the lotto ticket. There you
Well,
go. We just made a spin.
we might have to have another episode focused, like, really on the entrepreneurial journey, because it's
Yes.
I totally agree with you, and I think those myths are super important. And another piece of that is like, I think I'm say some of the same things, but I think in just a slightly different way, where it's, you have to be a very generous person. So my friend Bob Berg, in his book The Go Giver, talks about how you need to give more in value than you take in payment. And it doesn't mean that you're not taking payment or that you're not being compensated fairly, but the other person needs to leave feeling like they got immense value, more than
Of
what they paid for. And if they feel like they got more value than what they paid for, they're going to love you and they're going to refer people to you, right?
you,
But then if you
the-
have that
correct.
approach, you also have to be open to receiving from other people. And that kind of, when you're able to give, you're able to receive. It sounds funny, but you're switching that mindset enables you to have open hands when somebody's not a good fit. And then to your point, you're able to have these open hands, and they come in and they go out. Clients come in, clients
So
leave.
be it.
They don't ever
So
work
be
with
it.
you.
Yeah.
And when you have
Yeah.
open hands like that, and you're there to really add value to people, whether they pay you or not, you're able to then not be desperate and not get salesy. So,
I know this is a bit of a digression, but I got off a call this morning with a sales leader who told me the reason why he will not allow me because we're not a good fit for his organization. And my question to him was, could you tell me a bit more? Because I really want to improve, right? I also want to make sure that what did I say that has, he says, you are a big supporter of AI. And I don't think that AI has any role in sales. And my response was, I look at AI as follows, boss. As a coach, as a sales coach, and as a sales consultant, I believe that for every dollar you pay me with AI behind me, I can deliver 3x the value that you need from me from a monetary point of view. So if you have a passion to deliver more than what you're paid, then AI is that force multiplier that actually allows you to deliver it. So my message to people is very different. Look at AI as augmented intelligence. It's your slave. It's actually at your disposal. Why are you that? Because we are watching lazy people writing emails using it, like DMs written by. I mean, in fact, if I had to prep for your call, I would actually take the 7 myths and say, okay, give me a talk track on the 7 myths that I can wow Joseph Liffin with, right? And then you know what's going to happen, Joseph? I'm going to talk to you, and you're going to tell me that's kind of not answering my question, because fluidity of the moment is something that AI can't handle, Joseph.
yeah,
You and I have just switched gears how many times now? Now, can you just imagine AI trying to keep up with us? It'll drown us with noise, absolutely, because it's trying to predict where we are going. It cannot predict where we are going because only you and I can feel that nuance, that warmth in the
yeah,
air that tells you that, wait a minute, you know what? This is a great point. I need to tell you something about me, Deepak, which is I had to go back to work. Come on. Now the AI is scrambling in the background trying to figure out what is job loss, what is rebuilding a career. And that's not where we are going, right? But you see
yeah.
that that's the fun part. So harness that energy to your favor. You will deliver 3x, 4x value, and that's exactly what I've done. That's my focus and my objective, Joseph, is to deliver value to my customers because my heart is in it. Now AI is giving me the tool and the opportunity to actually deliver more value than I take money for. Customers love it.
I
But
love
we're
that.
digressing again. That's another
Yeah,
call.
we
But
could
I just
have
wanted
a
to throw
comment.
that in because it's it bothered me, that conversation this morning. It really bothered me that because of that,
Yeah,
I am being denied an opportunity because I'm a heretic, which I thought was a bit weird. But we'll
yeah.
see. We'll see.
But then, that's also like, when you have open hands like that and you switch that mindset, then also you find that you attract the right kind of people who are going to be a good fit client. And so then, now you're not going to be working with somebody who this isn't going to be a good fit too. And you end up finding better clients. For some
Y-
reason, it's not pulling in the LinkedIn user, but somebody commented about how we should make a T-shirt about listen before you sell before you build before you scale. Thank you.
Yes,
For some
yes,
reason, I can't
LinkedIn
see who
user.
it
But
is.
please make sure the copyright and the royalties come back to Joseph Liffin fast.
I love it. Okay, so we could keep talking about this stuff all day, but I want to come back to the myths. So what I'd
Mhm.
love for you to do is, like, what myth has been the most? Do you feel like you dealt with the most personally? And
There's
tell
two
me
of
about
them.
how you came through it.
Absolutely. So for me personally, the biggest myth was that I actually have an inherent dislike for cold calling. I actually don't like cold calling. I just don't, Joseph. That's just me. Now the reality is that because when people say no, I take it personally. So this is that myth number 7 that I was talking about, right? How people take no and take it very personally. And many people who leave sales because they cannot take this personal stuff anymore. And two, when
Hmm.
you are taking the no's in a row, they get magnified if you're not making your number as well, Joseph. Now, to every salesperson out there, if you're not making a number and you go to a random poll, I kid you not, 2 out of 3 people are not making the number as we talk right now. That's on a quarter to quarter basis. Joseph, that means that you got 67% of salespeople under immense pressure all the time. And in this day and age, you also still have sales leaders who are doing coaching like from the 80s and 90s. They still ride alongs. They still want to tell you the objection handling frameworks and stuff. We're living in a different era. We're living in an era where you need to actually tell Gen Z millennials exactly how to operate. And it's not just about technique anymore. It's also about behavior and attitude. How do you
Yeah.
keep this person sane so he gets through? Identity versus role is a big discussion that I have with people. Then the second myth that you actually came up with it was, if my offer is good enough, it should sell itself. If you build it, they will come, right? If you
Yeah.
build it, they will come. Also, if you think about it, I love the movie. It was a great concept. It motivated me a lot, but it was actually word of mouth. At the end of the day, they came because a message was going through that there's someone who is building something in some anticipation. What is this about? And that curiosity did lead to something. So at the end of the day, you build in faith. And if your message is really solid, it'll get out there. But the reality is that those are good movies. You gotta talk to it. You need to keep, and that's
Yeah.
in his case. He spoke to people about it who thought he was quirky, and then it just became same thing. Keep talking to people about your business. Tell them about your
Yeah.
product, because if you don't, and this is the real truth, Joseph, and this is a surprise for business owners. I asked them a very simple question: why aren't you selling, positioning a product? He says, I don't like it. It should sell itself. It's very good. I said, can I ask you a question? Are there sales, is there anyone in a competition who's half your intelligence but making 10 times your money? And they tell me, oh, tons of them.
Oh yeah.
Rafael is making $1 million. Jose has just kicked my ass out of that company, this company. And I just
Yeah.
asked him a question. So, and you tell me that they've got 50% of intelligence. What are they doing different? He said, oh, every place I go, he's been there before. I said, you see what's going on here? There's a pattern. You are following or dragging into the future. Those guys are setting the future. Half the intelligence, but 100% of the passion to do the right techniques or the right behaviors is the difference. And this mindset is holding you back. So this is just one of those things. How I would explain those myths, Joseph.
Yeah. That's huge.
Don't take it personally if you get a no. Don't let it hit your identity. And the reality is that your offer is never good enough. You got to keep selling it. You have to position it, and the reason you sell it is because, Joseph, you can have one screwdriver, but it's used 10 different ways with a customer, right? But when you explain to the customer how your screwdriver can be used for the intent he has, I actually had someone once ask me, "Hey Deepak, which point should I use for ice instead of an ice pick? I use it as a screwdriver because the grip is perfect for that." Now, can you imagine selling a screwdriver to someone who uses that to because he likes chunky pieces of ice in his drinks? Joseph, it's crazy world we live in. But now imagine selling to him. You could sell him a diamond encrusted ice pick as a once off for $1,000 because the guy uses it for some weird reasons. That's why you talk to
So true.
people to understand what exactly are problem do you have, what are you solving it for. And this
Yeah.
brings me to the value. And I learned this from my granddad. The guy could sell you the t-shirt you're wearing for $10, Joseph, but he can also sell the same thing for $200 if you were dumb enough to let him know that you're price insensitive. And
Mm.
I used to ask him, isn't there an ethical moral dilemma for you? He says, no. If someone is okay to give away $200, then they are the guys that are making a mess. And it is within my right to take their money because they're stupid enough to give me their money. I'm like, and it took me a long time to actually figure out that he had figured out how marketing works. That's why you have a home full of stuff that you really never needed. But guess what? You needed the Thai master because Susan Somers told you the Thai master is going to change your life. I think I got
Yeah.
two of them lying around somewhere. Well, my thighs are still bad and wrinkled. What can I say?
Well, there's also like the value piece too. So somebody who has $10 is also going to be, uh, it's going to be harder to sell them their own shirt because they've only got $10. The person who's got $200,
Correct.
they
And
might be buying it for a different reason. Maybe they're buying it for pleasure or
absolutely,
joy, and they've got the extra spending money. So who cares? So at that point, you're actually could be serving the
Joseph,
person more by selling
you
it for more.
absolutely, absolutely. You're right. And that's how my granddad simply explained it to me. He said to me, and at the end of the day, Joseph, I'll be very honest with you. The reason why he sold a $10 shirt at $10 is because he knew this guy will buy 10 shirts a year, 12 shirts a year, but he only buys one a month because he can't afford more. And he wanted him to buy 12 shirts from him. He says, the rich guy comes into my store, he buys 12 shirts, but then he's gone for 10 days, 10 months. But a poor guy or guy that only has one t-shirt buying capability, he'll come to my store 12 times. who do you think I will be talking to the more than Deepak? I will talk with the guy that can't afford something more than I will. Therefore, he will remember me as that shop owner who showed grace. You talk about giving and you talk about that whole setup, right? This is one of the reasons why you have this whole karmic setup of selling, right? And I honestly believe that when every time I get mistreated by a fellow salesperson for trying to sell to them, they give me, I just ask them a simple question. How would it feel if I were to return the favor if you were to try to sell to me and do what you just did to me? Oh, yeah, yeah. Then they get it. But it's we so
Yeah.
quick to forget the
And
give and
I
take
won't
of
go
this
too far
balance in
down
life.
this route because I'm actually not a
Mhm,
very vindictive person. But
mhm,
I've had it happen a couple times recently where I
mhm.
had reached out to somebody about I wasn't even selling them something. I was actually giving them an opportunity, and they treated me like total garbage. Their response back to
Yes.
me was like ridiculous, and I'm like, "You're not a famous person. You're not important. I'm actually doing you a favor by reaching out to
Wh-
you. I could care less whether you say yes or not, but you being a jerk makes you look like a jerk." Well, guess what? I have been the gatekeeper recently of a similar opportunity of a much, much, much higher scale. And that
It's
person requested to do it. And they asked, and I see him on the list. And you know who I'm not going to recommend? I'm
because
not
you
going to
know
recommend that person.
exactly,
So they lost out.
exactly.
And it wasn't even because they said no, it was because of how they said no. And I think I do want to move on to the sales sorcery because we could
Sure,
literally talk
absolutely.
all
Let's
day.
do that.
I
Yep,
love talking
yep.
about this stuff too. But my wife's out of town and my son's hanging out. So got to finish in time to make some food and
No
hang out.
problem. So I'm at all. Yep.
Uh,
Let's keep
well,
going
just
then.
one last thing to wrap this up because I think it's really powerful. Just this whole conversation we're having around the myths and all of those pieces is and something that's really shifted for me when people say no and being able to have open hands is if I'm looking to serve every person that I can, that's it's within my capacity to serve them. Then
Mhm.
uh, if somebody says no, I could still find a way to really add value to them, even though they're not paying me. And the amount of goodwill that that builds with people and the amount that I end up getting back by them referring people to me or things like that is insane. So, like somebody says, "Hey, this isn't a good fit for me right now," but earlier in the conversation, they said, "Hey, I am looking to write a book." So then, when they tell me no, instead of me going like, "No, let me convince you," and whatever, I can just go, "Hey, you mentioned wanting to write a book. There's somebody that I know that you need to talk to because he's an expert in
Yes. You
self-publishing,
can
and
and you connect people.
yeah,
Absolutely.
then you connect them, and then I can reach out and go, "Hey, how did that go?" Right? And then when there's
Yep.
somebody who needs what I have, who's going to be top of mind? Me. And I see that happen all the time where those people come back around. So when you are generous, you have open hands, you're open to receive, and then you look to connect people and add value like that, you build. Yeah.
Joseph, I'm going to connect something there for you for 1 second, if you don't mind. Someone once asked me, Deepak, why do people become salesy? You become salesy because you're constantly thinking of selling. But when you go in with a karmic mindset, with the mindset that I am selling, yes, let's be honest about it, but I am also not going to be disappointed if I don't get a win because you take a different view. Some will buy, some won't. We respect that. But your relationship can be so powerful, Joseph, that they will buy one day, which is so true. In my own game, 9 months ago, people treated with me disrespect also. Many people told me, no, 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 go get some social proof and show me you've helped, then we'll let you talk to us. Now these are the very people clamoring to get onto a newsletter, calling me. It's awesome. And I'm not saying that it vindicates me or whatever. No, because at that point they were just not ready. And I respect that. In the same way that I could have gone and proposed to 10 women, they would have all told me no. I know that for a fact, Joseph. Right? It's the same thing. In this context, you think that you have got something that someone will buy. You forget that the recipient also needs to be in the same frequency. And people have reasons for not buying at that time. So therefore, let's not judge, but also go in with the intent to help someone, known with a karmic balance that if not today, then tomorrow something will happen. But when you go in with the notion, and most salespeople make this mistake, Joseph, I'm running at 93%, and the boss on the way out says, you better crack this deal, otherwise it's a PIP you're going on.
Yeah.
Is that the right pressure to send someone out there into the battlefield called sales? No. And Joseph, I tell you one thing. My biggest challenge, I did a doctorate degree in job satisfaction and organization commitment of salespeople. Why? Because I actually love this function. I wanted to understand what makes them tick. What's going on here? And to my chagrin, and it upsets me to an nth degree. People tell me that salespeople make tons of money, therefore they know how to take disrespect. Stop it. Stop it. Are you telling me that if I paid you to spit on me, that allows you to spit on me? Come on, what are we talking about here? We need to understand one thing. Salespeople are taking a role. Yes, they're motivated by money. I get that. And thank God they're motivated by money. motivated by something, Joseph. And how do you control a salesperson? Think about it, right? The sales function functions because of the fact that you have this control mechanism. So, and we can keep talking, but yeah, back to you, Sir Joseph.
Okay, so I want to just give you a chance because we just talked about the 7 myths, right, and these challenges, and we spent a lot of time on that. So I want to spend the next couple minutes. Now we could go for like an hour on this, right? So let's keep it a little bit tight, but like I'd love for you to
Absolutely.
dive into sales sorcery because you talk about sales sorcery. So we talked about the myths. We're busting
Yeah.
myths here, right? And then now
Yeah.
we want to get into
Yeah.
some of the sales sorcery. How do we actually like turn around now and start
So,
selling
sales
without the sales?
sorcery. Sales sorcery was a mistake. I kid you not. What I actually started off by smart, sell smarter, stress less, blah blah blah. Big words. And I was with a customer, and the customer said to me, Deepak, I just love the way you explain things. There's a certain magic in the way you communicate, and I love it. And you use your hands a lot. For me, if I just put a wand in your hand, you would like be a little wizard master. That's what he called me, wizard master. And
I
I said,
love
okay, first of all, I don't like the word master with a whip. It just gives me heebie-jeebie vibes, right? But I thought about it, and I was having a conversation with a guy that helps me, figure out what my newsletter should contain and stuff. And he said to me, hey, wait a minute. Deepak, you're always talking about mindset. You always talk about transforming your inner narrative around selling. I said, yeah. And you're always talking about, some very basic stuff, but you also talk about these fairy tales. You also talk about how you got to bring that inner magic of yours out. And then the sales sorcery joke started from that. In fact, I
I
kid you
love
not, Joseph Levin, if I tell you that I actually went and bought the domain also,
it. I love it.
salessorcery.com. It belongs to me because I just love that concept. So,
Yeah.
what is sales sorcery? Think of sales sorcery as a fairy tale ending. Just think of it in a different way. You meet someone who helps you bring out that inner magic in you, someone who helps you with sales longevity. 35% of salespeople will leave the sales function by age 35. Joseph, think about that. A
Mm.
third of humanity's best are going to leave the sales function by the age of 35. If I can convince 35 of those people to stay on till the age of 55, they will all leave with a couple of $1 million extra, and you'll have an economic boom if you think about it. The best. Why do people leave? People leave because someone is actually not looking at their inner needs or the stress or the resilience that is needed. Burnout, right? Sales loses its charm at some point, Joseph, because on a Monday morning, it's like a Jekyll and Hyde moment. Monday morning, ring the bell, and everyone's like, Deepak's the best. Wednesday, someone else's deal fell. So, Deepak, I don't care what you do. Figure out, go call that company that's going to buy in March and tell them to buy in January. Back to the same
Yep.
scenario. That's why quota management. So you've got this perfect storm, and in that perfect storm where sales sorcery fits in, and sales sorcery says as follows: I'm going to help you with sales coaching at a very inner level. We're going to use specific techniques to understand what's going on, and I'm going to help you to build a frame of resilience. And in fact, Joseph, this topic or this subject hit me so hard that I actually ended up writing a book which is coming out by the end of July called Rise Up, and I wrote it for early career people in general.
Mm.
How do you earn and learn the ability to be resilient from day one in a toxic environment, in an environment where your ambition is killing you and you're surviving on diet coke and cigarettes, and friends call you and say, hey, can we have that lunch you promised 6 months ago? And you're like, dude, next life, I'm hustling right now. So this hustle, so
Yeah.
striving, thriving, that book is what really I wanted to focus on, and that came about because of the sales sorcery thought and
Mm.
concept, right? And it's about helping people not to become louder but to become clearer. And anyone who wants more t-shirts, you can put that also. Sales sorcery is to help you not to become louder but to help become clearer. That's what sales sorcery does, Joseph.
I love it. So yeah, tell me about this. I'd love for you to just talk about. So you have a, let's just say you have a client. Think of a client where they were really buying into these myths, right? And they
Mm.
were struggling. And then you came in with your sales sorcery and your wand.
Yes, yes.
Tell me about what happened for that client.
You said it yourself, and I'm going to take your own framework and throw it right back at you, Joseph Levine, and do not send me a bill for that. Ladies and gentlemen, here's how sales sorcery becomes practical if you apply specific steps to it. Number one, when you are talking to someone, don't make a pitch. Actually, start with some real questions about that person's pain. Number one, approach every conversation with a giver attitude. You're there to help someone do something better. Maybe they have the pain, maybe they don't have the pain. Do that conversation. And by the way, this word pain is also, if you think about it, Joseph, incorrect, right? You will only help people that are struggling and suffering. No, a good Samaritan will also help the rich guy who happens. I don't know how to explain it to you, but the thought process that you have to sell is wrong. You're not selling. You're doing something very unique there, right? Make a phone call actually and simply say, can I share an idea that might help? Remember, Joseph, you spoke about ideas. You know that you know what you I heard you wanted to write a book. I was thinking about connecting you to someone. To me, that's ideation. That's about thinking
Mhm.
differently. That's for me is very important. I would also say that, if you would apply the sales philosophy principles, I would say stop hiding through preparation. Just stop. Go ahead and take your imperfect offer to market. Make
Yeah.
those 6 cold calls which are really bad get rejected, because that's how you will learn. You
Yes.
gotta pay the school fees, guys. There's no magic pill. If you build it, they will come. Is illusion. It's myth. That's another myth, right? But there's no pill. I'm not going to give you a red or a blue or whatever those colors were, right? Just if that's not how it means, right? And for me, anyway, let me stop. It's, you can see I get emotional with this type of stuff, right? I just want salespeople listening to just detox this myth that rejection is failure. That's another T-shirt, by the way.
Yeah.
Detox the failure or rejection. Rejection
Yeah.
is not failure. It's a
Actually,
data
that
point.
I think we've gone for 36 minutes, so I think I'll probably land the plane and we can hop back on and have another
Yes,
conversation
sir.
sometime, digging deeper with that, because I actually had an interesting interaction with somebody recently where they were saying, um, we've had some back and forth. I probably won't say super specific just because I've already gone back and forth and I'm not trying to call anybody out. But it's
No.
this idea of like failing fast, and he was like, that's a bad framing, because then he kind of goes into failure. But then I felt like through his what he was sharing, he was also kind of rejecting the idea of what you just said, where you purposefully put it out too soon before it's ready so that you can learn. And so my response to him was, we'll change the word fail to the word test, because if it's a test, you're planning to be wrong. And like another way that I've said it is, um, I'm always
Jo-
wrong. I might be 1% wrong. I might be
Jo-
99% wrong. And until I get something in the market and start testing it, I'm not going to
oh
know how
my.
wrong I am.
Joseph Levin, you just nailed it. And here's what I tell people like that: failure is an outcome, it's not a process. Trial and error is the process. I have a feeling I want to try something. I trial it. I have an error in the outcome. Only then I call it a failure. But I actually say it's success because I proved my hypothesis was wrong. And just
Yep.
between you and me, Joseph, and the listeners on this call and whoever listens to the recording, I have wasted, no, I have invested $25,000 of mistakes that I have made with bad cold email infrastructure, bad virtual assistant hiring, bad coaching guidance given to me, paying someone to help me with this, helping with that, and all of them gave me things that work for other people, but it doesn't actually help me because I have a different style. And this is very important for people on this call. You're going to see people out there telling you that come into my class and I'll teach you how to handle objections. And my request is, I don't think so. 30 people sitting there, if all 30 of them could learn the same thing, then we would change the world. But that's not what's going to happen, right? Practice, one-on-one scripts. These are
Yeah.
very important, very critical. Trial and error is the word, not failure. Failure is an outcome. And I don't measure things on outcomes, right? I did a lot of effort. I only made $10,000 profit. Well, okay, so that's an outcome. That outcome is maybe a failure, but your effort to get to the 10K, that never is a failure. Absolutely never.
Yeah.
Trial and error. And I think you
And
called it test, right,
what's
Joseph?
the
That's
what's
the
the bigger
right
failure?
framing, my friend.
Yeah, what's the bigger failure, to like try something and it not work out how you thought, or just
The
continue to do
biggest
something that
failure
you
is
know
to
is not
not
good to
try
begin
to fail.
with?
You nailed
Yeah,
it. The biggest failure,
exactly.
you know, Marianne Wilkinson, she and Nelson Mandela quoted her in his inauguration speech 1994, just in case anyone was following. I carry a South African passport, so I track these things. He actually said something very profound. Who are you to not step into the sunlight or to, let the light shine on you? You, your inner fears hold you back. Stop. And when you step forward, you allow other people to see your light and to step into it.
Yeah,
That is the point, right? That's what we're doing here, guys. You talk it about the do good model. It's about the fact that I fell, I learned. And my friend, the reason I'm putting my hand on your chest to stop you is because that manhole is where I broke my foot. And I will
yeah,
not let you fall in that manhole, because I have people telling me that The manhole at the neighbor's house is broken and that's his problem. The answer is no, it's not. The second you saw it, it's your problem, because I will assure you, your neighbor's son is going to come take your son to go play with him in his year, your in his yard, and your son is going to fall in because you don't believe in karma or goodness. I know it sounds very crude, very bad example, but Joseph, I really want people to understand that when you mistreat people, I assure you that aura you create is going to attract mistreatment back to you, and that's when you don't like it. The only reason, and you'll also notice, rich people tend to mistreat others largely because money gets you allegiance. People will respect you for all the wrong reasons, even if they want to argue with you and tell you that your behavior is bad, but they will tolerate it simply because you're a man with something on the table. But Joseph Levin, for a
Yeah,
Friday afternoon, I
super
think
fun, man.
that we,
I enjoyed
yeah,
this
we
conversation,
can,
and
yeah,
I love the idea of like just the sales sorcery really being like your mindset needs to change around these things, and then you walk people through that. So last thing, and how can people learn more about you? Like if they want some of that, I mean, I'm enjoying just the conversation. I like,
my
I'm enjoying talking
so
to you. So how can people learn how to
so
talk to you more and maybe work with you?
Very easy, guys. Keep an eye out for Joseph Levin. He's a wizard who's going to give you a playbook that I did for the 7 myths. It's a workbook that you can play around with. Joseph, there's a newsletter that I publish. Ladies and gentlemen, Joseph's actually live on LinkedIn right now. You know where to find me, right? Find me, reach out to me, DM me. I am an amazing virtual coffee drinker. I will sit there with an empty mug to keep you company. But tell me what's on your mind, and then let me tell you how I can help you. And then we can take it from there. Right, Joseph?
I
At
love
the end
it.
of the day, Joseph, at this point, to be honest with you, I had 3 customers, Joseph, that I was about to sign coaching contracts with. All 3 of them called to tell me that they all got no jobs in the month of June. And that hit me. So if there are people out there who are being hit by a lot of change that's happening out there, may it be AI driven, may it be tariffs driven, or whatever, if you feel that you just want some stability, some conversation, or some guidance, hey, drop me a note. Happy to help you with your resume. Happy to help you with the LinkedIn profile. If you know someone that I'm connected to and I can put in a word for you, please reach out. It's not about selling to the moment, right? It's about selling momentously. I just want to keep people in know me, keep me in mind. If not today, then one day. I have VPs today, Joseph, who work with me because when they were fired from their companies, I helped them, and now they're back on their 2 feet. They want to know what's happening with me, and hey, I was just curious. I'm hiring someone. I want you to onboard him for me. And can you, in like 6 weeks, bring him up to date on some of our playbooks and the way we do business? Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Sir, LinkedIn, my profile is there. Please connect with me. Happy to do that. Joseph is going to share with you guys a playbook that I put together. It's a link. And if you guys want to, you can subscribe to my newsletter. It's also on my LinkedIn profile. That's the best way to get in touch with me is LinkedIn, Joseph. Emails,
Awesome.
websites, where people will forget. But hey, LinkedIn is one of those constant things, right?
Absolutely. For some reason, it's not letting me post it on LinkedIn, but I will get it up here shortly.
No problem. If you have any problem, just communicate with me and I can post it on behalf or whatever. I can put in one of the
Yeah, if you're
comments.
watching
No
on
issue at all.
YouTube, then you can find it on there and post it. But for some reason, LinkedIn didn't. So I'll post it after the fact. So come back and look
Thank you,
for it.
sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deepak, for coming on our show. Really
My
appreciate it,
pleasure,
and
Joseph.
talk to you soon.
Absolutely, Joseph. Thank you for having me. And audience, it's a Friday afternoon. Please enjoy. Take care, everyone. Bye bye. Have a great weekend.